My wife said in therapy, "We're roommates. There's no spark, no effort, no connection anymore." After 15 years, the therapist asked, "When did you stop trying?" She stammered. When I pulled out my journal, 852 date ideas I'd suggested that she'd rejected, every single one documented. Her silence said everything. I, 44 male, have been married to my wife for 15 years. 2 kids, ages 12 and 9. House in the suburbs, 2 cars, the whole American dream package. I'm an electrical engineer at a manufacturing firm. She's been a stay-at-home mom since our first was born, which was her choice and one I fully supported. Last Tuesday was our 4th couples therapy session. She demanded we start going 3 months ago because, in her words, something's broken and you need to fix it. I agreed, thinking maybe a neutral third party could help us communicate better. The first 3 sessions were rough. She'd do most of the talking, about how I didn't understand her, how I'd become distant, how she felt like we were roommates, not partners. The therapist would nod and ask me how I felt about that, and I'd say I was trying, and my wife would scoff. Session 4. The therapist, a woman in her 50s with glasses and a patient demeanor, asked my wife to describe the problem in 1 sentence. My wife leaned forward. "We're roommates. There's no spark, no effort, no connection anymore. He doesn't try. He hasn't tried in years." I sat there, hand in my lap, waiting. The therapist turned to me. "How do you respond to that?" "I disagree." My wife laughed. Not a nice laugh. "Of course you do. You always think you're doing enough when you're doing nothing." The therapist held up a hand. "Let's explore this. When did you stop trying? Can you pinpoint a moment?" This was directed at my wife. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I don't know. It's been gradual. He just stopped making an effort. Can you give me an example of something you wished he would do that he doesn't? Plan dates. Surprised me. Put in effort like he used to when we were dating. The therapist looked at me. "Do you plan dates?" "I try to." My wife snorted. "When was the last time you suggested a date?" "Last Thursday. I asked if you wanted to go to that new Italian place downtown on Saturday. You said you were too tired. 1 time doesn't count." "What about the week before?" "I suggested we see that movie you'd mentioned. You said you'd rather stay home." "I don't remember that." "And the week before that?" "I asked if you wanted to go to the botanical gardens. You said it was too hot." She was getting flustered now. "Those are just... you're cherry-picking." I reached into my bag and pulled out a leather-bound journal. The same journal I'd been keeping for the past 11 years, ever since our marriage started feeling one-sided. "Actually," I said, "I have them all documented." The therapist's eyebrows rose. My wife stared at the journal like it was a weapon. "Every date idea I've suggested since 2013. Every single one. With the date, the suggestion, and your response. Would you like me to read some?" That's insane. "You've been keeping a list." "I started keeping it because I thought I was going crazy. You tell me I never tried, and I'd think, didn't I just suggest something last week?" So I started writing them down, just to prove to myself I wasn't losing my mind. The therapist leaned forward. "May I see it?" I handed it over. She flipped through the pages slowly. Her expression changed from curious to something else. Concern, maybe, or recognition. "How many entries are in here?" 852. My wife went pale. "That's not possible. Over 11 years, that's about 77 suggestions per year. Roughly 1.5 per week. Some weeks more, some less." The therapist looked at my wife. "Did you know he was documenting these?" "No, because it's crazy. Normal people don't keep lists like that." "Why do you think he felt the need to?" My wife didn't answer. She just stared at the journal in the therapist's hands like it had personally betrayed her. The therapist read aloud. March 14th, 2019. Suggested picnic at the lake for our anniversary. Response: "I don't want to deal with bugs." March 21st, 2019. Suggested couples cooking class. Response: "That sounds exhausting." April 3rd, 2019. Suggested weekend trip to the coast. Response: "The kids have activities." She flipped more pages. September 2021. Suggested dancing lessons. Response: "I'm not coordinated enough." October 2021. Suggested wine tasting tour. Response: "I don't want to be around drunk people." November 2021. Suggested staying at a bed and breakfast for our anniversary. Response: hotels are a waste of money. My wife's face was red. You're making me look bad on purpose. I'm reading what's written here. Those are out of context. I had reasons. The therapist set the journal down. In 11 years, how many of these suggestions did you accept? My wife didn't answer. I did. 14. I counted. 14 times out of 852. The room went silent. That's a 1.6% acceptance rate. I added. I calculated it because I needed to know if I was actually the problem. The therapist turned to my wife. You said earlier that he doesn't try. You said there's no effort. But this journal suggests otherwise. Can you help me understand that disconnect? My wife started crying. He's trying to make me the villain. This is manipulation. Is it? Or is it documentation? It's the same thing. I stayed calm. 15 years of being gaslit will do that to you. You learn to keep your voice steady when everything inside you is screaming. I want a divorce, I said. Both women looked at me. This isn't about the journal. This isn't about winning an argument. I've spent over a decade being told I'm the problem, that I don't try, that I'm not enough. And I've got 852 pieces of evidence that I did try. Every single time. And every single time, it wasn't good enough. My wife's tears stopped. Something harder took their place. You can't just. I can. I've already talked to a lawyer. I wanted to try therapy first, give it a real shot. But hearing you sit there and tell me I've made no effort when I've got 11 years of proof that I have, I'm done. She stood up. This is ridiculous. You're throwing away our family over a book. No, I'm leaving a marriage where my wife rejected 98.4% of my attempts to connect with her and then told a therapist I was the one not trying. The therapist cleared her throat. I think we should. We're done here, my wife said, grabbing her purse. This was a mistake. He's clearly been building a case against me for years. She stormed out. I sat there for a moment. The therapist looked at me with something like sympathy. That journal. How did it feel keeping it? Lonely, I admitted. Really lonely. She nodded. I think you already know what you need to do. I did. I'd known for years. I just needed proof that I wasn't crazy first. That was 5 days ago. My wife hasn't spoken to me except through her mother, who's been calling me nonstop to tell me I'm destroying the family and that I need to stop being dramatic. I've moved to the guest room. Lawyers on retainer. Kids don't know yet. We agreed to wait until we had a plan, though I'm not sure she's capable of planning anything beyond her next attack. This is just the beginning. Update 1. 10 days later. The silent treatment lasted exactly 3 days. Then all hell broke loose. Day 4 after therapy, I came home from work to find my mother-in-law sitting in my living room. My wife was nowhere to be seen. We need to talk, she said. About what? About this ridiculous stunt you're pulling. A journal? Really? You've been keeping score like a child. I set down my briefcase. I've been documenting my efforts in a marriage where I was constantly told I wasn't making any. That's petty. Maybe. Or maybe it's the only way to stay sane when someone rewrites reality every time you have a conversation. She stood up, all 5 feet 2 inches of righteous indignation. My daughter gave you the best years of her life. She raised your children. She kept your home. And you're leaving her because she didn't want to go to enough restaurants. I'm leaving her because she rejected every attempt I made to connect with her for over a decade and then blamed me for the distance. She was tired. Raising children is exhausting. You wouldn't understand. I work 50 hours a week. I coach Little League on Saturdays. I help with homework every night. I cook 3 dinners a week. I do understand being tired. The difference is I still tried. She pointed a finger at me. You're going to regret this. When you're alone and miserable, you'll realize what you threw away. Maybe, but at least I'll know it wasn't because I didn't try. She left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. That night, my wife finally emerged from wherever she'd been hiding. Her sister's house, I later learned. She wanted to talk. This isn't fair, she started. What specifically isn't fair? That journal. You've been building a case against me for years. That's not normal marriage behavior. Neither is being told you don't try when you're trying constantly. I didn't reject everything. You're exaggerating. 14 acceptances out of 852 suggestions. That's not an exaggeration. That's a percentage. You're being cold. I'm being accurate. There's a difference. She sat down heavily. So that's it? 15 years, and you just done? No. 15 years, and you're just now noticing I'm done. There's a difference there, too. Her eyes narrowed. The kids are going to hate you for this. Maybe, but they'll have both their parents. Just not in the same house. You think you'll get custody? A judge is going to look at a mother who stayed home to raise her children and a father who was at work all the time. I'm not trying to take full custody. I want 50-50. I won't be their dad. She laughed. Not nicely. Good luck with that. The next few days were a blur of logistics. My lawyer, a no-nonsense woman who specialized in family law, advised me to document everything. Record conversations if legal in my state. It was, keep a log of interactions. Note any concerning behavior. The journal is good, she said during our second meeting. It shows a pattern. But fair warning, family courts tend to favor mothers, especially ones who've been primary caregivers. You're looking at an uphill battle for anything beyond every other weekend. I want to try. Then we try. Day 8. My wife started making moves. She called the kids' school and tried to remove me from the pickup list. The school called me to verify. Thank God I'd already flagged the situation with them. She opened a new checking account and started diverting any income she earned from her side business, selling crafts on Etsy, maybe $200 a month into it. She's positioning herself, my lawyer said. Try to control the narrative before the divorce is even filed. What can I do? Keep documenting. Don't engage in arguments. Stay in the house. If you move out, it looks like abandonment. And whatever you do, don't give her ammunition. That last part was easier said than done. Day 10, she invited her entire family over for Sunday dinner. Without telling me, I came home from picking up the kids from their activities to find her parents, her sister, her brother-in-law, and their 3 kids all sitting in my dining room. What's this? My mother-in-law smiled sweetly. Just a family dinner. You're not going to throw us out, are you? In front of the children. My father-in-law, who'd always been quiet and mostly reasonable, looked uncomfortable. Her sister was recording on her phone. I looked at the kids. My kids. They looked confused but excited about seeing their cousins. No, I said. Of course not. Dinner was an ambush. Every topic circled back to what a wonderful mother my wife was. How dedicated. How sacrificing. Her sister made comments about some people who didn't appreciate what they had. The recording phone was always pointed at me. I ate quietly, answered direct questions with short responses. Didn't take the bait. After dinner, while the kids played in the backyard, her father pulled me aside. I don't know what happened, he said quietly. And I'm not taking sides. But my daughter, she's been calling her mother every day, crying, saying you've been planning this for years. I haven't been planning anything. I've been surviving. There's a difference. He looked at me for a long moment. That journal, is it real? Every entry. 800-something suggestions, she said no to. 852. Over 11 years. He exhaled slowly. That's a lot of no's. Yeah, it is. He didn't say anything else. Just nodded and went back inside. That night, after everyone left and the kids were in bed, my wife cornered me in the kitchen. This isn't going the way you think it is. What way is that? You think you're going to walk out of this marriage looking like the good guy. But everyone's going to see what you really are. A man who kept a creepy list just to use against his wife. I kept that list to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. Not to use against anyone. Same thing. It's really not. She stepped closer. I want the house. We'll let the lawyers figure that out. I want the kids. Again, lawyers. And I want you to know that when this is over, when you're alone in some sad apartment eating microwave dinners, I hope you think about everything you threw away. I looked at her, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. And I realized something. She wasn't sad. She wasn't hurt. She was angry. Angry that I finally stopped being the one begging for scraps. I've been eating microwave dinners alone for years, I said. At least now I won't have to pretend they're a family meal. I went to bed in the guest room. Tomorrow would be another battle. But at least now I was fighting back. Update 2. 3 weeks later. Filed the divorce papers on a Wednesday. Served them on a Thursday. All hell broke loose by Friday. My wife didn't take it well. Not that I expected her to, but I underestimated just how ugly things would get. First came the accusations. She told her friends I'd been emotionally abusive for years, that the journal was evidence of my controlling behavior, that I'd been documenting her failures to use as leverage. Some friends believed her. Some reached out to me, confused. I gave them the short version. I kept a log because I was told I didn't try. The log showed I did. Make of that what you will. Most people honestly just stayed out of it, which was fine. I wasn't looking for a jury. Then came the financial games. My lawyer had advised me to open a separate account for my paycheck as soon as papers were filed. Good thing I did, because 3 days after she was served, my wife attempted to drain our joint savings. $43,000, give or take. The bank flagged it because of a withdrawal limit, and I got the call before the transfer went through. I marched to the bank with my lawyer on speakerphone and froze the account pending the divorce proceedings. My wife was furious. Called me at work screaming about how she needed that money to survive. You have access to the household credit card for groceries and necessities, I said. The savings stays frozen until we figure out the split. You're trying to starve me out. I'm protecting marital assets. There's a difference. Then came the custody play. She filed for temporary full custody, citing my hostile work environment behavior and claiming I was emotionally volatile around the children. Her evidence? The dinner ambush where she'd had her sister recording me. The video showed nothing. Literally nothing. Me eating quietly. Me answering questions politely. Me declining to engage with baiting comments. This actually helps us, my lawyer said after reviewing it. She's claiming you're volatile, but the video shows you being calm under provocation. They shot themselves in the foot. The temporary custody hearing was brutal anyway. Her lawyer painted me as a workaholic father who was barely present. She cried on the stand about how she'd given up her career for the children and now faced financial ruin because I wanted to abandon the family. The judge wasn't entirely unsympathetic. Temporary arrangement. She got primary custody during the week. I got every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. I walked out of that courtroom feeling gutted. My lawyer patted my shoulder. This is temporary. The full custody evaluation is coming. That's where we make our case. The custody evaluator was a court-appointed psychologist who would interview both of us, the children, and assess our living situations. My wife was confident she'd win. Why wouldn't she be? She was the mom. She'd been home with the kids. In her mind, the case was already closed. But she underestimated one thing. Kids notice more than adults give them credit for. When the evaluator interviewed our 12-year-old, she asked about family activities. Who planned them? Who participated? What did they do together? Our son talked about how Dad coached his baseball team, how Dad helped with his science fair project, how Dad took him fishing on Sunday mornings when Mom was still asleep. He also mentioned that Mom didn't really do stuff with them, that she was always on her phone or too tired, that when they asked her to play board games, she'd say, maybe later, and later never came. The evaluator interviewed our 9-year-old daughter separately. She talked about how Dad braided her hair for dance recitals because Mom didn't know how Dad came to all her performances even when he had to leave work early, how Mom sometimes forgot about pickup times. I didn't coach them. I didn't even know what they'd said until I read the evaluator's preliminary report. But apparently, my kids had been watching us all along, and they saw who showed up. The report wasn't entirely favorable to me. It noted my long work hours and the fact that my wife had been the primary caregiver. But it also noted concerning patterns of emotional disengagement from a mother and strong attachment behaviors toward the father. My wife was livid when she saw the report. She accused me of coaching the kids and turning them against her. She demanded another evaluation. The judge denied it. The final custody determination came 6 weeks later. Not 50-50. That would have been too much to hope for in a system that favors mothers. But I got significantly more than every other weekend. I got shared legal custody every weekend from Friday to Sunday, Wednesday overnights, alternating holidays, and half the summer. My wife's lawyer argued against it, said I was disrupting the children's stability. The judge pointed out that stability meant more than just living in one place. It meant having engaged parents. The look on my wife's face when the ruling came down. I won't lie, there was some satisfaction there. Not joy, just relief that someone had finally seen what I'd been living with for years. After the hearing, her mother approached me in the parking lot. You think you've won something? You haven't. Those children are going to see who their real parent is. I hope they do, I said. I really do. Final update, 2 months later. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. Nothing dramatic. Just signatures, a few last-minute negotiations, and the formal end of 15 years. The final split, she got the house. I didn't fight for it. Couldn't afford to buy her out, and honestly, I didn't want to live somewhere with so many one-sided memories. She'll have to refinance the mortgage in her own name within 18 months or sell it. Given her lack of income history, that's going to be interesting. I got my retirement accounts, which are the bulk of our actual assets since I've been the only one contributing for 15 years. She got a portion through a QDRO, about 40%, which still stung, but my lawyer said it could have been worse. Spousal support, 3 years. Enough time for her to get back on her feet since she'd been out of the workforce so long. The amount wasn't catastrophic, $1,800 a month, but it still felt like paying rent for a building I'd already moved out of. The journal came up one last time during the final hearing. Her lawyer tried to argue it was evidence of obsessive and controlling behavior that should factor into the custody arrangement. The judge, the same one who'd heard the custody case, shut that down immediately. The journal shows 852 documented attempts by one spouse to connect with the other, met with consistent rejection. If anything, it's evidence of extraordinary effort, not control. My wife's face when the judge said that. Priceless? No, that's not the right word. Validating. 15 years of being told I was the problem, that I didn't try, that I wasn't enough. And a judge, on the record, said otherwise. After the finalization, I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment about 15 minutes from the house. Not fancy, but clean. Enough room for the kids when they stayed over. My daughter immediately claimed which room was hers and started making plans for how to decorate it. The first weekend, I had them full-time. We went to the botanical gardens. The same ones my wife had rejected because it was too hot. It was October now. Perfect weather. My son asked why we'd never gone before. Timing, I said. Sometimes things don't happen until the timing is right. He seemed to accept that. My wife's post-divorce life has been educational to watch, though I try not to pay too much attention. She couldn't refinance the house. Credit wasn't good enough without my income backing it. She's selling it now, supposedly, though the market isn't great and she's priced it too high out of spite. Her mother moved in to help with costs, which I suspect is code for help with everything. Her Etsy business, which she'd always insisted was growing, apparently earned $1,400 total last year. That's not going to cover much when spousal support ends in 3 years. The kids have adjusted better than I expected. Our son asked me once if Mom and I hated each other. I told him no, we just weren't good at being married anymore, but we'd always both love him. He seemed okay with that. Our daughter asked if Mom was mad at me. I said probably, but that was between adults and she shouldn't worry about it. She said, Mom's mad at everyone. You were just quiet about it. Out of the mouths of babes. I've started seeing a therapist on my own. Not couples therapy, just for me. To process 15 years of being told I was the problem. To understand why I stayed so long. To figure out what I want now that I'm not spending all my energy trying to save something that was already dead. The journal sits in a drawer in my new apartment. I thought about throwing it away after the divorce was final. Burning it, maybe as some kind of symbolic gesture. But I didn't. Because that journal isn't about her anymore. It's about me. It's proof that I tried. That I didn't just give up. That when someone tells you you're not enough, sometimes they're wrong. My therapist asked me if I regret keeping it. No, I said, I regret needing to. She nodded. What would you tell someone in a similar situation? I thought about it. Document everything. Not to use as a weapon, but to stay sane. When someone rewrites reality, having a record is the only thing that keeps you grounded. And if they'd asked you to stop, if your wife had said she felt tracked or monitored, then I would have stopped. And I probably would have left sooner because that would have confirmed she cared more about avoiding accountability than actually trying. She wrote something down. That's healthy, actually. Setting boundaries. I'm learning. A few weeks ago, I ran into the therapist from our couple sessions, the one who'd witnessed the journal moment. She was at a coffee shop, alone, reading. "How are you doing?" she asked. "Better. Clearer." She nodded. I think about that session sometimes. The journal. 852 attempts. And 14 acceptances. Right. 1.6%. She paused. I've been a therapist for 20 years. I've seen a lot of one-sided marriages, but I'd never seen someone quantify it like that. I needed proof. For myself, if no one else. Did it help? It helped me stop questioning my own memory. Stopped me from wondering if maybe I really was the problem. You weren't. I shrugged. Maybe I contributed. Marriage is two people. But the effort gap, that wasn't imagined. She sipped her coffee. For what it's worth, I think you handled it with more grace than most people would have. I don't feel graceful. I feel tired. That's allowed. I got my coffee and left. Went home to my apartment, which still feels new but also mine. Made dinner for one, but it wasn't sad. Just quiet. Tomorrow I've got the kids for the whole weekend. We're going to try that Italian place downtown, the one my wife said she was too tired for. My son's been wanting to try their pasta for months. Sometimes I still think about those 852 rejections. Not with anger anymore. Just acknowledgement. That was my marriage. Trying and trying and trying, and being told I never tried at all. Now I try for myself, and for my kids, and for the life I'm building, one document a day at a time. Thanks for reading. Time to move forward.